What's more dangerous than ignorance? It's the illusion of knowing. It's that quiet, creeping certainty that you've got it all figured out, that you've seen this before, that the answer is obvious. This is the cognitive blind spot where expertise becomes a liability, where confidence becomes a cage, and where the most catastrophic mistakes are born. Today, we are exploring the illusion of knowing. We'll meet samurai masters who learn from beginners, and navvies that literally forgot a life-saving cure, and engineers who watched a disaster unfold that they knew was coming. These aren't just stories from the past, they're warnings for the present. Because the moment you think you are the most knowledgeable person in the room, you've just become the most vulnerable. Let's begin with the simplest and perhaps most comical form of this illusion: the breathtaking confidence of the truly incompetent.
Lemon juice robbery. When stupid meets science.
It's 1995, and MacArthur Wheeler walks into two banks in Pittsburgh in broad bloody daylight and robs them. Just his face covered in lemon juice. When the cops nabbed him a few hours later, they showed him the surveillance footage, crystal clear. His face, right there on camera. Wheeler stared at the screen, genuinely puzzled, and muttered, "But I wore the juice." Here is where it gets absurd. Wheeler had a theory, a flawed, spectacularly wrong theory that made perfect sense to him. See, Wheeler knew about invisible ink. When the lemon juice hit the paper and words appeared like magic. His genius leap of logic: if lemon juice makes writing invisible until you hit it, then obviously it should make faces invisible to cameras. The man even tested his hypothesis like a proper scientist. He slathered his face with lemon juice and took a Polaroid. The photo came out blank. Eureka! He'd cracked the code. Of course, the film was probably knackered, or he didn't point the camera right. But Wheeler saw proof of his brilliance. Now, this whole mess caught the attention of David Dunning and Justin Kruger, a psychology professor and his grad student, who looked at Wheeler's case and thought, "This isn't just regular stupid, this is something special." What they found was bloody fascinating. The people who knew the least about something were the most confident they knew everything. Basically, when you're crap at something, you are too crap to realize you're crap. Your incompetence literally blinds you to your own incompetence. And this is the illusion of knowing. It's not complete ignorance that kills you. It's that shallow puddle of understanding that looks like an ocean when you're drowning in your own confidence. The scary part? Wheeler is everywhere. He's in every second webinar, every boardroom, every bloody conversation where someone's got just enough knowledge to sound smart, but not enough to actually be useful. These people aren't evil. They're just confident people. And the more wrong they are, the more confident they become, because they lack the intellectual firepower to recognize their own limitations. Well, it's easy to laugh at MacArthur Wheeler. He's a perfect example of how a complete lack of skill can blind someone to their own foolishness. But the illusion of knowing becomes far more dangerous when it infects not the incompetent, but the highly competent. What happens when it's not a deluded bank robber, but a brilliant doctor whose expertise becomes the very source of their biggest blind spot?
The silent epidemic, misdiagnosis, and 371,000 deaths.
You walk into a doctor's office trusting that years of medical training will uncover what's wrong with you. But here is a statistic that will make you think twice about that trust. 371,000 Americans die each year from diagnostic errors. That's more than from car accidents and gun violence combined. The problem isn't incompetent doctors. It's smart doctors making fast decisions in a system designed for speed, not accuracy. A 2023 Johns Hopkins study revealed something terrifying about modern medicine. Doctors are incentivized to move patients quickly through the system. It's like McDonald's, but with your life on the line. This creates perfect conditions for what researchers call representativeness bias. Your symptoms get matched to the most common pattern the doctor recognizes. Throw in plunging in and premature closure biases, and you'll get the whole picture. But 25% of misdiagnoses happen exactly this way. Doctors use mental shortcuts, assuming your systems feed the prototype instead of investigating what's actually happening to you. Here is what's insidious. The system rewards surface-level thinking. The doctors making these errors aren't bad doctors. They're human doctors, doing a honorable job, but working in an inhumane system. When you're seeing 30 patients a day, cognitive shortcuts become survival mechanisms. Pattern recognition becomes a substitute for investigation. 424,000 people suffer permanent disabilities each year because their doctors stopped digging too soon. Because their system values efficiency over accuracy. Because appearing confident is more important than being thorough. Every misdiagnosis represents the same fundamental error: treating symptoms instead of understanding causes. Addressing what's visible instead of what's hidden. The next time a doctor gives you a quick diagnosis after a brief examination, remember, the most life-saving question you can ask isn't what is it? It's what else could it be? Sometimes slow medicine is the only medicine that works. Your life might depend on your doctor's willingness to admit they don't know yet. This is a real danger of the illusion of knowing. The diagnostic errors in medicine show how the pressure of a system can turn an expert's greatest strength, pattern recognition, into a deadly liability. This is the illusion of knowing at the individual level. But what happens when this flaw scales up? What happens when an entire institution has the right answer, the problem cure, but over time slowly loses the understanding behind it? The British Royal Navy learned this lesson the hard way.
The scurvy cure, or how the Navy forgot.
Here is a ridiculous medical mystery that killed more sailors than enemy cannon fodder. In 1747, British naval surgeon James Lind proved that lemon juice could cure scurvy. The Royal Navy adopted his cure and scurvy virtually disappeared from British ships. Problem solved forever, right? Wrong. 50 years later, scurvy was back, killing sailors by the thousands. Same Navy, same knowledge, same problem. How the hell do you forget a cure that works? Lind's original experiment was brilliant. He took 12 sailors suffering from scurvy and gave them different treatments: vinegar, seawater, oranges and lemons, garlic, some spiced elixir, and barley water. Only the citrus group recovered. The evidence was crystal clear. The Navy started issuing lemon juice, and scurvy cases plummeted. Ships that had lost half their crew suddenly had healthy sailors. It was a medical triumph. Case closed, right? Not even close. Here is where human nature kicked in. Navy administrators started asking practical questions. Lemon juice is expensive. Could we use something cheaper? They knew what worked, something acidic and something preserved, but they didn't know why it worked. Vitamin C wouldn't be discovered for another 150 years. So they started substituting. Lime juice replaced lemon juice because limes were cheaper. Sauerkraut replaced citrus because it stored better. Malt extract replaced everything because it was the most cost-effective. Each solution made perfect sense based on surface-level understanding. But lemon juice contains about 50 mg of vitamin C per 100 grams. Lime juice about 30. Sauerkraut maybe 15. Malt extract virtually none. The Navy had replaced the cure with placebos that looked like cure. That kept the ritual while losing the substance. By the 1800s, scurvy was ravaging British ships again. Sailors were dying from a disease their grandfathers had conquered because bureaucrats decided to optimize it. This is what happens when we assume what works, but not why it works. The cure wasn't lemon juice. It was understanding why lemon juice worked. And here is your illusion of knowing. So, we've seen how the illusion of knowing traps incompetent individuals, skilled experts, and entire institutions. We see how it causes us to mistake confidence for competence and ritual for understanding. The question then is, what's the antidote? The answer comes from the ancient wisdom of masters who understood that the only way to avoid the traps of expertise is to never stop being a student.
The beginner's mind, when masters stay students.
So, you are watching a martial arts class. White belt in the corner, awkward, clumsy, no bloody idea what they're doing. Next to them, a black belt with perfect form and years of training. Now, here is the question. Just who the master is actually worried about sparring with? The white belt. Doesn't make sense, right? But this paradox is about to blow apart everything you think you know about expertise. There is this thing in Japanese culture called shoshin, beginner's mind. Not some self-help nonsense, but deadly, serious, practical wisdom. Japanese calligraphy masters tell students who've been painting for decades, approach every brushstroke like it's your first time. Because the moment you think you've mastered, your art dies. You start painting from memory, not reality. You are reproducing yesterday's masterpiece instead of creating today's. Samurai warriors, guys whose life literally depended on their skills, deliberately sought out inexperienced teachers. Masters of life and death asking beginners for advice. Bloody brilliant. Because they understood something most of us miss. Deep knowledge creates blind spots. When you've been doing something for years, you stop seeing what's actually happening. You become predictable, rigid, vulnerable. That rookie might spot the flaw that decades of experience had hidden. You know what kills more expertise than ignorance ever could. I already know. Those three words are cognitive poison. The moment they leave your mouth, you've stopped seeing, you've stopped questioning. You are applying yesterday's solutions for today's problems. You are just doing it because it's always worked. While the beginner is asking, why does this work? We think mastery means having all the answers. Not true. It's actually maintaining the capacity to let go of what you think you know. The masters who stay masters never stop being students. What if I'm wrong? Isn't a question of self-doubt, but strategic intelligence. That white belt who doesn't know what's impossible. They are dangerous because they haven't learned what can't be done yet. Maybe it's time to dispel the illusion of knowing. The beginner's mind is the ideal. It's the disciplined practice of questioning what you think you know. But what happens when an entire organization does the opposite? What happens when a culture of certainty, ego, and fear of speaking up creates the perfect conditions for the illusion of knowing to take hold, with the highest possible stakes? This brings us to our final and most catastrophic example, the story of the Challenger disaster.
Challenger disaster, the cost of unspoken truth.
January 28, 1986. Millions of Americans watch live as NASA launches the Space Shuttle Challenger. 73 seconds later, they watch 7 astronauts die in a fireball on national TV. The engineers knew it would happen. The night before launch, they already were in panic mode. Temperature forecasts showed far colder than any previous shuttle mission. Their O-ring seals had never been tested in such conditions. They called an emergency meeting with NASA. For hours, they presented data, charts, temperature correlations. Their message was crystal clear: postpone the bloody launch. NASA's response? Prove us it's unsafe to launch. Think about that for a second. They flipped the burden of proof. Instead of requiring evidence that it was safe to proceed, they demanded proof that it wasn't. When you can't prove a negative with absolute certainty, you've created permission to ignore inconvenient truth. So they caved. They overruled their own engineers and gave NASA the green light they wanted. This wasn't a technical failure, it was a psychological one. Here's what killed those astronauts: the comfort of avoiding uncomfortable conversations. Admitting their O-rings were untested meant admitting they didn't know as much as they claimed. Postponing meant public embarrassment, budget implications, schedule disruptions. The engineers offered truth. Leadership chose comfort. One engineer later said he went home last night knowing people were going to die. He watched the launch with his family, waiting for the explosion he knew was coming. This is what happens when institutions choose comfortable lies over uncomfortable truth. When ego matters more than evidence. When being right matters more than being safe. NASA helped build a culture where dissent was punished and certainty was rewarded, where questioning the plan was seen as lack of commitment rather than due diligence. The Challenger disaster wasn't caused by an O-ring. It was caused by the human inability to face uncomfortable realities. Every organization faces this choice daily: truth or comfort, evidence or ego, safety or budget. Choose comfort and you might just choose catastrophe. 7 people died because comfort felt safer than truth. It never is. The samurai master embracing the white belt. The Navy bureaucrats clinging to a ritual without understanding. The rushed doctor relying on a familiar pattern. MacArthur Wheeler blinded by his own incompetence. And the NASA managers choosing the comfort of certainty over the hard truth. 5 different stories, one devastatingly simple theme. The illusion of knowing is the most dangerous bias of all. It's the voice that whispers, "I already know." And in doing so, shuts down curiosity, denies legitimate challenge, kills innovation, and in the worst cases, gets people killed. The real path to wisdom, to safety, to genuine expertise isn't found in having all the answers. It's found in the courage to ask the right questions, especially the most difficult one of all. What if I'm wrong?